Alright, welcome back to Do-It-Myself Garage. If you're familiar with the channel at all, I don't normally have the car parked this direction. I had a bit of a problem here almost 2 weeks ago now. Coming back from a car show, and the rear end started making kind of a loud noise. I'm hoping it's just the bearing. I think I ran the fluid a little low a while back. Well, I know I ran it a little low a while back, and I'm hoping it just caused a problem with the bearing and not the actual gears in the rear end. It's not making an pinion noise where you makes a different noise when you accelerate or let off. It's more just at speed. So let's start tearing it apart. We're going to see how much fluid's in it, check the bearings, and we'll kind of go from there. First thing I'm going to do is pull the right rear axle, because I think that's where the noise is coming from. If that bearing seems bad, then I think I'm just going to pull both axles out, have the bearings replaced. They're a press-on bearing, and try that before I do anything major. But let's dig into it and see how bad that right rear bearing is. Alright, so got the car up off the ground, working on measuring backlash right now. I had checked the fluid level last night and it was fine, so that I decided I better pull this cover off of here to inspect it. All the gears look perfect. Everything's fine. The wear pattern is what it was when I took it out. These are I left the used gears on here, and there's no teeth missing or nothing like that. The fluid doesn't really look like there's any metal in the fluid, so I think we're okay there. But I am a little concerned about this backlash. If you watch this, this is just a backlash between the ring gear and the pinion, and it's about 12 to 13,000. So that goes to 29, and that goes to 18, 29, 16. So about 12th hour. So when I'm moving that, I'm moving the tire, and sometimes it moves the pinion a little bit too over there. And I don't want to measure the transmission backlash. I just want the backlash between the pinion and the ring gear. So that's a bit much. I believe it's supposed to be 6 to 9. I'll go double check real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll decide. I think I might pull this cap off on the left side here. Might pull him off and play with the shims to tighten that backlash up just a little bit. Alright, so I also double checked the play this way. I put the indicator on the back and pried this side to side, and that's a good 10 thousandths also. So that's not probably ideal. So let's go ahead and get this off of here. I couldn't find my shims, although I did find a transmission shim that maybe I could make work. Let's get this cap off of here and see what I can do. I had about 12 thou a backlash. I found a 6 thou shim that should tighten it up. It was 12 to 13, so that'll get me a 6 to 7 like it should be. I can get the shim started, but I got to pull the axle out in order to get it in there all the way. I only took off the cap on the one side. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. Just trying to do this without disassembling this dang thing. So let me go ahead and get that axle pulled out so I can shove this shim in there. I'm putting it on the inside so it's covered by the cap so it won't fall out. The bigger shim packs are designed to catch on the cap, but that small one will sneak him on the inside there, so there's no way for him to fall out. Alright, got the axle pulled out far enough so that it shouldn't interfere here. Let me see if I can sneak that shim in there now. Should go in with no problems. I don't know if I can do it one-handed while filming. I also don't want to kink it. Alright, I needed to pry on that a little bit. Let me go ahead and pry on that while I push that in, and I'll be right back. Alright, somehow I was able to get those in there, and now I just got to torque that bolt back down. Didn't have the exact right gasket, but I got one for a 10 bolt. Nothing a little gasket maker won't fix. A little black paint on that gasket when I'm all done, and nobody will even know. All right, I'm gonna get this axle back in over here. All right, sorry I forgot to show it before I put this gasket. I was so excited to find the gasket. I checked the backlash and it was just over 6 thou, 7 thou, somewhere right in there. So I should be good to go now. Everything's torqued back down. The cover is just barely on there lightly. Got to let that gasket maker, make a gasket a little bit, and then I'll come back, torque that down, and then we'll fill her up with fluid. I got to get the axle back in, and we should be good to go. Yeah, sorry about that. I actually wanted to show that, and I forgot to do that. Alright, wheels are back on, fluid is in. Let me show you the fluid I used. I used this Valvoline Full Synthetic 75-140. It's supposed to provide a little bit better protection for limited slips, for heat and stuff like that. Basically at this point, if she's going to make noise, I'll just drive her till she blows up. That shim should really have helped though. Let me go ahead, I gotta get my other car out of the way, and then we'll get the GTO out and take her for a drive. I'm not gonna try to film that because honestly the noise, there's no way the camera would pick that up. But let me take her for a drive and see if that made the whole thing better, quieter. It sure didn't hurt to take it apart and look at those bearings and stuff though. Alright, so quite unfortunately I've got her back in the garage here again. I took her for a drive and that did not seem to help. I am 90-some% sure now that I have a bad bearing. However, since the way these bearings work and the axles are interchangeable, I'm going to swap the axles from side to side to see if the noise moves to the left side. And if it does, then I know it is a bearing for sure. Then I can drop off the axles on Monday, give my guy a couple of days to swap them out, throw them back in during the week or Friday, and I'll have the car again next weekend. If I leave the axles in this weekend, I can still go to a car show on Sunday. It's right here in town. It's one I went to last year at Gilliland. So yeah, I mean, they're usable. If it's just a bad bearing, I know it's not the center section now, at least 90% sure. So let's swap these axles, see if the noise moves. Maybe it'll get better because it'll be spinning the other direction. Let's swap them out. Alright, GTO's facing the other way today. That did not take care of the noise. I am certain it's from the right hand side though, so the noise didn't switch sides, so that's good news. I think it's even better news that there's nothing wrong with the rear end, because that would be really expensive. The front end, the guy was going to eventually switch this out to disc brakes and maybe some different spindles and stuff anyway, so I'm thinking it's the right front bearing. Well, I have a Ames temp meter here, and so when I put it on there yesterday after I took my test drive, that right front hub was 20 degrees hotter than the left, and both fronts were about 10 degrees warmer than the rear. That makes sense because of the braking. But that right front was 20 degrees higher than the left side. So we're gonna jack this thing up again, pop the wheels off both sides, and check our wheel bearings. I know I did them when I had the car all apart. But it's possible that they've gotten loose and they're out of adjustment. Let's pop these front tires off of here and see if we finally track this problem down. Alright, got it up off the ground and I'm checking my bearing play. Little bit there, probably more than it should be. Come over here and there's a lot on this side. Let's get it apart, see if it's the bearing, see if it's maybe some of the steering linkage. Let's figure it out. Maybe I can figure out what this stupid noise is. So, I don't know if you can tell here. But Yeah, that's definitely loose. Let's get this cap off and see if maybe she just worked her way out. I know I put her cotter key in there. Alright. That is concerning how loose that is. How did it get that loose? Still got the grease in her. There's the cotter key. Probably should have grabbed my plier, huh? Alright. I'm going to be a little disappointed if I tore apart that whole rear end for a front end noise. I tell you though, when you're in the car, it's hard to tell where the noise is coming from. I drive with the windows down all the time too, so maybe that's part of it. The sound kind of carries. I'm not sure. But again, that's concerningly loose. No, I didn't plan ahead. The hammer happened to be laying there. Look at that thing. Yeah, that was awful lot. Look at that. But she doesn't sound good, so we're going to take her completely apart here. Figure out, I don't know if I got dirt in there or something, somehow. Something happened. I think I had a bearing failure here. Got some more on order. I wonder if I should go uptown and just buy some. They can't be that terribly expensive. It's just a GM front spindle bearing. Might have to pull the hub off of here to do front and rears. Or out front and rears. Inner and outer. Looks awfully dark. Like it's got metal in it. Good thing I brought the whole roll of paper towels over here. I don't want to introduce any dirt into them, so let's see how well this cleans up. That's just the washer, retaining washer, and that looks okay. I'm pretty sure I replaced, I'd have to go back and watch my videos. I'm pretty sure I replaced the inner and outer bearing races on both of these hubs. Pretty sure I remember doing that. So maybe I didn't get the race all the way in, and then with driving it pushed in and now the bearing's loose. That's the only thing I could think of. I mean, if this isn't damaged, I'll put it back together and just tighten it up. Okay, these do not appear to have any flat spots or damage on them. I'll grab my eye loop and check. Only thing I can think of is maybe I didn't have it seated all the way. She feels like gravel. What the heck? Well, I'm sure I replaced that, but maybe I didn't. Let's check this bearing race. If I don't have to replace him, that would be kind of nice. Now that he's seated in there. Now this outer race is fine. This outer race is beautiful. It's that inner one. I don't know if you could hear that when I spun it. But that's like gravel. So something happened. Alright, let me, gosh, I really don't want to pound this out of here. because I really want to drive the car to a show tomorrow. Let me check to see if I can get a inner bearing somewhere around. And the other set I ordered I can always just keep as a spare. I mean, they're GM, so when I buy my next 3 GTOs, I'll have one. Alright, so I turned it over in the vise, hit the bearing, seal pops right out. The seal's in good shape, good enough for a wheel bearing. This bearing though, we're gonna be able to do it one-handed here. Let me hold on a second. So she's better now because I cleaned her out, but there's some catching and some gravelly going on in there. I don't know. So I'm going to clean out that hub really completely. Maybe I had some dirt left in there. I think the reason the hub was loose, I think that outer race, maybe I didn't get that hammered all the way in. And then over time, the bearing pressed in, and so I had that little bit of a wobble. But this bearing is definitely bad. The race is just fine. I'm going to leave the race alone. And I ordered a whole new set, inner and outer bearings, races, everything. They'll be here from Rock Auto for the end of the week. Meantime, AutoZone had a couple of these inner bearings. I'm going to replace them on both sides just to be sure. They're easy enough to. They just set in there. They don't even press in. They're held in by the held in by everything. So yeah, that sounds really, really bad, and that should explain why that wheel is getting hotter and the noise. So let's go grab those parts and see if we can get this thing back on the road today. All right, so got some new bearings. This is not the new one. New one's here. Got them at AutoZone. $22 for a pair. Inner bearings. And races. I'm not going to replace the races because they look fine. I'm guessing the bearing probably failed because of that tension being wrong. And it was in there at an angle. But the race on this thing looks and feels perfect. Let me just set this in here. Oh, that is smooth and quiet. So, I'm going to get that packed with grease, get this in here, get my seal back on here, and get this thing back in the car. And I'll have to take the left front. I'm just going to take that one and just tighten up the bearing. I don't think I'm going to replace it because it wasn't making noise, but I'll have extra parts. I ordered some stuff from Rock Auto also, so it doesn't hurt to have extra. Got some high temp grease here, and yeah, I'm just going to put it in my hand. I went and washed my hand. It looks a little dirty, but my hand is nice and clean. It's going to pack this all the way around. I know that's not how you pack a bearing, but is there grease in there? Yes. Is it all the way around? Yes. Am I going to put way too much? Yes. Am I going to put more? Yes. You really want to make sure it gets inside the bearing. They make kits and stuff for this. Anyway, make sure you get it greased really well. You can use a bearing packer, whatnot. I'm not going to put any of this grease back in the container that I had on my hand. I don't want to contaminate it with oils or anything like that. This is the only time it's ever going to get greased. This doesn't have like the outer cap does have grease in it for the outer bearing, but this inner one, this is the only time she's going to get grease. So make sure you get this good. Okay. There she goes. So clean my hands off real quick. Cap goes back on there. go. And that all gets held in place by the pressure, by the nut. So that'll all get held in place. This seal is just, it goes around the axle just to make sure this grease doesn't come out into your brakes. So there's really not much to that. Oh, it's a little loose over here yet. There we go. All right, let's put this back on the car. Oh, I've got the, and then I gotta, I'm gonna clean and re-grease the outer bearing and then put that back in also, but I have to re-grease it. Let me go ahead and get that down, get that greasing on that done. Well, my battery went dead, so I don't know how much of the bearing packing you saw. I think you got it all. Got this all packed, this is all cleaned up, and I'm gonna put this guy right on the hub. There we go. Now I gotta get the front bearing on there. Oh, I haven't cleaned up the cap yet. So I'm gonna clean up this cap and repack it, and then we'll have good grease for the front. All right, I'm gonna try to do this without kicking the camera too many times. So that little guy goes in there. And then there's a washer that has a notch in it. That goes in that groove. What that does is that keeps the wheel hub from potentially turning your nut, your castle nut. So once you set this tension that it should stay and not potentially turn it. Obviously we have a cotter key in there to keep it from turning, but if it were to bind, it would just snap that cotter key right off. That cotter key is just kind of a insurance. This thing doesn't get torqued at all. And that's where I think I had my problem last time, is you're supposed to go tight and then back off a little bit, and I don't think I went tight enough. Like right there, that feels great, but I don't think that's tight enough. Let me grab my crescent, go a little tighter and then back off, and I think I can get, well, we'll have to see where the hole is for the cotter key. You got to go to the next, you got to go to the nearest hole. But let me grab my crescent wrench. Can't have it too tight, but obviously you saw what happened when it's too loose. That was bad. That's about where it's going to have to be, because I can't go any tighter than that. All right. And the tool you have is the hammer you need. Apparently. Okay, no backlash at all there. Okay, so we're gonna take this guy, bend him out this way. Put the cap on, that's full of grease. All right, let's put the wheel back on. All right, wheels back on. That sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead, rinse and repeat. I'm going to do the other side. I'm not going to show that. I'm just going to go get it done. And then we'll take this thing for a drive and see if my noise went away. Well, I am a little more than embarrassed to admit that that fixed it. I didn't mention when you're tightening those nuts, at least on my car, the hole through the axle, there's two of them. They're 90 degrees apart, and then that way with the castle nut, you can choose different spots so you don't have to be too tight or too loose. So it helps a little bit with that. So you definitely want to go tight and then to back off to the nearest hole. But yeah, so much better, so much better. Got I say, the only thing I can think of is I didn't have that race in there all the way, because that was about a quarter turn loose, and I would have obviously wouldn't have ever worn that much. So anyway, she's running great. I took her for a drive. I measured the temperature on both sides. They're both within a degree, so I don't have any rubbing anymore. Grinding going on. Hopefully that lasts for a while. That was well, it was $22 for 2 bearings. I only put one of them in. The other side looked just fine. I did tighten it up just a little bit. Went to the next notch over it at 90 degrees off. So it wasn't off by much, but it was enough to warrant me going ahead and tightening it. So, well, sometimes you guess and you're wrong. You know, the other maintenance that I did to the rear end wasn't bad. I mean, putting another shim in there because it was out of tolerance, yeah, that's probably just from wear end. All that stuff, that's all good things. I checked all the bearings, swapped the axles, made sure everything was good. Now when I go and get new tires on here and get the alignment done, I can rest assured that it's, you know, hopefully they'll stay on. That is the next project. Is I have some 15-inch rims that I'd like to put some rubber on and try them on this car. Ooh, just almost got nailed by a bee. Yeah, but anyway, thanks for following along. I'm sorry if that was all over the place, but when you're driving, it can be hard to tell where the noise is coming from sometimes. I'm not sure if putting the GoPro out there would have necessarily helped. You know, if I had a lift or something I could get this up on, I probably would have checked the bearings sooner. But it's all good. She's back on the road, ready for the car show tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.